It's Friday, January 15th, and I just got off a train from New York to Washington, D.C. I'm here to cover the inauguration. So what's it like here right now? Well, I had to walk quite a few blocks in the rain just to get my Uber because there's so many streets that are closed. You can see members of the National Guard here directing traffic and closing off streets. That's a Humvee from the National Guard right there. There's also this truck that was on Connecticut Avenue blocking off traffic. Many storefronts are boarded up and closed, and so are the subway stations. And of course, with that comes a lot of traffic, and you can take a look at a Google map to see just how many streets are closed off right now.
Security measures in place for Biden's inauguration. His Amtrak ride to inauguration has been canceled, and the city issued a public emergency declaration to order businesses and people indoors. The National Mall is closed, which means no crowds, and up to 25,000 National Guard members will be in D.C. There's also a network of steel fencing, vehicle checkpoints, and concrete barriers to get to inauguration. Biden has said that he feels safe about the event.
I'm not afraid of taking youth outside, and we've been getting briefed, but I think it's critically important that there be a real serious focus on holding those folks who engage in sedition and threaten people's lives, deface public property, cause great damage, that they be held accountable.
So let's say President Trump loses fair and square this November, but he says the results aren't clear enough for him to accept. What would happen next? Well, on January 20th, he would skip the inauguration on Capitol Hill and instead would declare that the election was rigged. The U.S. military would salute President Biden, meaning that Trump could no longer command them to do anything. If he tried to, and some members obeyed him, they would be tried and convicted on mutiny and sedition charges. Foreign leaders would cut off relations with the U.S. ambassadors, awaiting instructions from President Biden. Biden's acting attorney general would write up arrest warrants for President Trump, with charges of criminal trespassing at the very least.
Quite reasonable to assume that he is leading them up the steps, kind of like follow me, follow me, follow me. And I just froze it where he glances over at the top of the steps, and he glances over at I guess that's the Senate chamber, which is really interesting. So he pushes there's the one man who's wearing the black t-shirt and the hat and the sleeves, and he pushes him to get him to kind of follow him along. Incredible situation.
So I too had a thought while I was reloading last night. I really like guns, and I really like shooting. And I also really like the USA. I thought that it would be really cool that for any like, share, comment, or follow I get from this video, I will get that person's username and I'll make a casing for them. I'll put their username on the side of a round that I reload. I only have about 1,500 casings of 223 left that I'm able to reload currently. I might be in trouble if I get more interaction with this video than I do have free casings left. Depending on what happens, I'll be sure to post video updates.
So if you voted for Joe Biden just because you didn't like Donald Trump, but you don't really know what Joe Biden stands for, let me tell you what you just voted for. You just voted for national lockdowns, curfews, a national mask mandate, forced vaccinations, repealed Second Amendment, nationalized healthcare, taxpayer-funded abortion, defunding the police, the sexual exploitation of children. You voted for a $15 minimum wage, for a tax increase and an increase to the cost of living. You voted for the Green New Deal and the ban of fossil fuels. You voted for censorship, and you voted for socialism. Just because Donald Trump hurt your feelings.
Joe Biden's brain is on a vacation far away. When he speaks,
issued an urgent law enforcement bulletin saying groups are planning armed protests at the U.S. Capitol and at state capitals ahead of President-elect Biden's inauguration. The FBI says there are also threats against Mr. Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, along with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Remember how the Republicans tried to say that there's no sense impeaching Trump again when he only has a week left in office? I mean, what harm can he do? Well, apparently he can do a lot. This is the My Pillow guy, who you might recognize if you've ever watched ads for pillows on Fox News. For some reason, Trump loves him, and he was photographed today walking into the White House for a meeting with Trump with these notes. Through the magic of some ancient technology known as telephoto lenses, we can read what this says, and it's horrifying. It's a batshit crazy action plan for Trump to stay in office by switching out the director of the CIA, switching out the National Security Advisor, invoking martial law, and invoking the Insurrection Act. It even tells Trump that he can trigger emergency powers by blaming China and Iran. Remind me, Republicans, how the Senate didn't need to bother coming back in an emergency session to remove Trump after his first coup attempt.
Late-breaking, hilarious news. Ivanka Trump is announcing that she's going to the inauguration on January 20th. Newsflash, girl, you and Jared Kushner are the least welcome people, like, on the planet, let alone at the inauguration. Like, are you kidding? So meanwhile, it's an insider at the White House who's reporting this, that her and Donald Trump are fighting. He's like, you can't be seen at that thing. It's a mistake. You have to stand with the family. They've destroyed me. And she's like, well, Daddy, I have to think of my political career. And I'm thinking, what political career? The Lucky Sperm Club does not automatically sanction you a politician. Whatever you were up to for the past 4 years was like stuffing your pockets for you and your husband. Please. Anyway, so he's like, no, you have to come to my inauguration. So apparently he's planning some sort of cockadoodle something. I don't know, maybe at Mar-a-Lago, whatever. But it is just like, bye.
I might be the only Republican at this place, but it's reaching across, loving one another, because that's what's going to get us through probably the most divided times that we have. I want the divided times to be behind us. I want to be able to differ in opinion and hug each other at the same football game.
Here's a fun fact, you guys. If you buy a calendar, an advent calendar, a discount one, the day after Christmas, you can count down to the inauguration with it.
Donald Trump has said that maybe on the 20th of January, he might not leave. He's going to stay. People have said to me, well, what happens then? Understand this. The moment Joe Biden takes the oath, he is the president. He's in charge of the military. He's in charge of the Secret Service. He's in charge of the White House. The White House is a very secure place. Donald Trump is no longer president. He's now an intruder. And Joe Biden has said he will be escorted from the building. Now, if Donald Trump wants to fight it, argue, complain, do whatever, well, he's still going to get removed from the White House. Make no mistake, whether he's leaving under his own power or kicking and screaming, On January 20th, Donald Trump will leave the White House by any means necessary.
I hate country music singers who get rich off their conservative fans but have absolutely zero of the American values they sing about. We're looking at you, Garth Brooks, and nobody gonna buy your music anymore. Bye.
We're watching the news and they're talking about how President Trump tweeted that he wasn't going to the inauguration. Listen what Joe Biden says.
Joe Biden says he's fine with that. One of the few things he and I have ever agreed on.
Joe Biden.
It's a good thing I'm not showing up.
He ain't showing up!
So here's a question. What happens to the nuclear football on Inauguration Day when Trump isn't there to hand it over to Biden? For those who don't know, the nuclear football is the equipment the president needs to authorize a nuclear strike, and it goes wherever the president goes. The other thing you might not know is that there's more than one. So the answer's quite simple, really. Trump has one, Biden has one. As soon as Biden is sworn in, his is activated and Trump's is deactivated.
So we are 72 days from the inauguration, and I'd like to tell you what I think is going to happen on Inauguration Day. I'm making this now because I want to prove how incredibly predictable and sad Trump is. So first of all, obviously he's not going to the inauguration. There's no way. He will be holding a rally at the same time in the state that he won, probably Florida, because that's where that bitch lives now. While he's there, he's going to say all like the normal talking points that he's been saying for like 2 or 3 months, like the Democrats stole the election and like that it's voter fraud and all that shit. But he's also going to mention that the crowd at his inauguration was way more than the crowd at Biden's, because why the fuck wouldn't he? And then all of the news pundits covering it are going to be like, only 5 times in our country's history has a living president failed to attend the inauguration of his successor. The last time being Richard Nixon. And everybody's going to go like, yeah, that makes sense.
How you holding up over there? We've been worried about you. Oh, we're fine. Well, I hope you're staying safe. How's DC? Yeah, it's all right. You know, all the streets are blocked off. There's National Guard troops everywhere. There's going to be 20,000 by Inauguration Day. And it's a pandemic, so we barely go outside. Oh, I forgot. Thank God for the pandemic. I mean, no. What? Pandemic bad. Okay, bye. We're...
Listen to me. I don't like you. Do I give a fuck? No, not one. How many fucks do I give? 0. Exactly. So therefore your comment is irrelevant.
Nothing is more satisfying than knowing that Donald Trump is sitting alone in the White House, seething about the guest list for tomorrow's inauguration. So, starting with host Tom Hanks as opposed to Trump's Get the Fuck Out of Town party hosted by Chachi, all right? The performances tomorrow is like a veritable who's who. Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, Demi Lovato, John Legend, Bruce Springsteen. I mean, Bon Jovi and even Garth Brooks just signed on to be part of this moment to usher in this new era and out with the old so that Kid Rock can sing that piece of shit into the plane and out of town where his life is about to turn into such shit that I can't wait to watch that. But yeah, so this is I mean, even the New Radicals have come together after 20 years to sing You Get What You Give.
Out in the Constitution on January 20th, we will see the inauguration of a new president. But because of COVID-19 and now the threat of more violence, things will look a lot different. In response to the attack on the Capitol last week, Washington, D.C. is on a virtual lockdown. Fences have been put up. Tens of thousands of National Guard troops, Secret Service, FBI, and plainclothes law enforcement officers are stationed everywhere. The mayor of Washington, D.C. also issued a public emergency until January 21st and is asking inaugural spectators to please stay home. The other truth is, since Joe Biden's election victory, his inaugural committee has been encouraging people to not show up in D.C. anyway, for fears the event would turn into a COVID superspreader event. Several things will be the same, though. The ceremony will be televised on most major networks. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will take the oath of office outside on the steps of the western front of the Capitol building. The Supreme Court Chief Justice will administer the oath of office to Joe Biden. Former Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama will all attend. 96-year-old President Jimmy Carter says he will not. President Trump says he will also not attend.